Welcome back to the channel, Crypto Trend Trader, with a quick update on Bitcoin. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you it's not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please do your own research and trade responsibly. Alright, here we got the Bitcoin chart. I'm on the 4-hour. We put the video out right here talking about the dump. Got the dump right afterwards. Came down exactly to our target, 9200 range, found support on our horizontal, but we knew that that wasn't done. Just like we had said, we expected to come down here to the heart line, which it did. Came down exactly and tagged the heart line perfectly, and then found support. And then you'll notice from that point we started to form this inside trend line. We were able to find support, get back above the horizontal, found support on it again, found support on it again, and we're putting in sequential higher lows, but just couldn't find any kind of strength on the way up here, and finally got back up to the top trend line of the yellow channel and got pushed back down. And it looks like right now we're getting ready to close the daily below this trend line for the first time, with 3, 4 confirmed touches, 5 right here. So if we close right there, at that point in time, I would expect this to come down basically to our next support, which is going to be the green. It's going to correspond again with the heart line of the channel, and that's going to come in right around here at like 90.50 roughly. But at this point in time, we're still expecting the move back down to the downside at some point in time to test these bottom ranges, as we just essentially like tighten and tighten and tighten inside of this pattern right here. But you'll see also, I want to point out one other thing as well. You'll see like the exact point that we come down to and tag right here is not only the heart line, but if we turn on our moving averages, I actually want to turn I'm going to turn them on at the same time real quick. All right, you'll see we come down exactly to our moving average. Now I'm going to turn off all the drawing tools and everything. So you'll see that if you use this indicator with these specific moving averages, you're able to find support and resistance without actually having to draw in like your horizontals and diagonals and everything. And that's the idea, is to allow you to use multiple tools like this easily, and let like the parabolic SAR and stop and reverse points, as well as some of the other things like the moving averages, and basically allow you to find those specific areas just simply at a glance. And if you switch over to like daily time frames, weekly time frames, you'll find that they correspond like even more strongly on different time frames. But I just wanted to specifically point out that we got that test down, and it corresponded the wick tip exactly, not only with that moving average, but corresponded exactly with the heart line of the channel as well. And that just happens over and over again with the moving averages, and with the trend lines and stuff that we use. And that's why it's so important, I think, to use like all the different tools that are available to us. So but let's get that out of the way and take a look at the indicator oscillators. As you're familiar with, when price action, the histogram is underneath and the slope is still blue, it's going to act as resistance if we attempt to get back above it, which basically is what's happening here. And when that resistance on the oscillator indicator corresponds as well with like our moving averages or trend lines, is when we find like that confluence. I'm going to expect the sell-off and then this to flip over red, and then get the continuation to the downside to like the heart line down here, the green trend line, etc. So, and then on the Bellina Assassina, you'll see that essentially on the shorter time frames, we're getting the movement to the upside on the 4-hour and the daily. But as we switch over to our longer time frames, matter of fact, I'm going to switch over to something a little different here, our Bitcoin dominance. And this is important right now because we're essentially like approaching a very, very important area. We're basically at like this support area, and if we break through the support area at like 64%, I would expect us to come down here lower to like this 57% range, which would basically be like a massive altcoin rally. Now, the alternative would be, the altcoins have been rallying this whole time. And what I think is going to happen is I think we're going to find support right here. And then Bitcoin dominance is going to go back up as we rise back up into this area and retest some of these ranges inside like the red to purple range. So I think what's going to happen is we're actually going to find support right here and get movement back up. So that can happen one of two ways. Either Bitcoin breaks out and goes on a massive run faster than the altcoins go up. So more money comes into Bitcoin than goes into the alts, so the dominance rises. Or vice versa, if there's a massive sell-off all of a sudden, all that money comes out of altcoins and goes into Bitcoin. So Bitcoin goes down, but it goes down slower or less fast. So that would see like a bounce right here, as Bitcoin dominance would rise, but prices are falling. And, as many of you know, I've been saying that we're approaching the top of this rally in the traditional markets. And I think it's very likely getting there, as well as you may have seen that Tesla in the last couple of days has gone up. Basically, the last 2 trading days were up like 30% on that position. Went from 1,500 to 1,800 today, which is essentially like a 20% move in the day, and then sold off like the entire move. So that might be the blow off top. Also, there's just like a few specific stocks in the indexes that are essentially like propping up the entire market, and Tesla being one of the key ones. So whatever happens in Tesla is going to be like echoed throughout the market's weakness, because it's essentially been like the driving force for the majority of the stock market. Maybe not the driving force for the majority, but at least an influencer in it. So, but I just want to take a look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, not only just the actual Bitcoin price action chart, but you'll see essentially what we were talking about. We're now pinned in between, like on the daily, the 50 and the 55, and we're right between them. We're negative slope, and essentially would be expecting to get like a sell-off and continuation to the downside. At this point in time, I think 9,000 based on moving averages is our next target, and then when we get back down to that 89 on the daily is when we'll get a better idea as to what we can expect. So, and we're still getting continuation to the downside. We have negative slope on the daily, and we're now approaching the range, essentially where we would expect this to start to top out and potentially selling off. We're losing the slope on our weekly time frame. You'll see the orange is starting to roll over now, and we are essentially going to be going back down to the downside. And then if we switch over, actually, matter of fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the weekly time frame real quick. We're essentially in the distribution zone all through here, and then we're getting the hard buy on the monthly as we're topped out on the weekly. So even if we are going to get a strong uptrend on the monthly over time, the weekly is topped out. So what I would expect to happen is essentially like a retracement followed by a higher low being put in at some point in time while the oscillators reset, and then the monthly trend to be playing out to the upside. But that's what I would expect to happen. I don't think we have enough fuel in the tank on the weekly time frame to just continue moving to the upside after we basically got like a powerful move and then just like consolidated inside the distribution zone without getting any kind of continuation or putting in a new high, even on like the macro time frames. So but there you have it, quick little Bitcoin TA. Not a lot happening here, but I am still expecting essentially us to oscillate inside this range and then sell off. But if we continue to see weakness in traditional markets, I would expect to see weakness in crypto markets as well, as we've seen a direct correlation between them. And overall, I think crypto markets have been weaker than traditional markets, with the exception of a couple of the smaller altcoins. So there you have it, guys. Crypto Trend Trader, and I'm out of here.